Ladies and gentlemen, this is Soviet Russian Bear Show, and today I have a first time guest on my channel. His name is Rami Lewkowich.
Yes, my mother last name Lewkowich, and also the bus, Rami, the bus Lewkowich.
Ah, okay. He lives in he's from Jordan and he's a Christian. Yeah, it's correct.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, he's a Jordanian Christian mixed with Russian. So, Rami, what can you say just about the Middle East? Our subject today should be the Middle East and Russia and Russian influence in the Middle East. Well, as
Yeah.
far as I know, since the fall of the Soviet Union, Russia lost many of its positions in the Middle East, and right now I see Russia is slowly regaining them. Would you agree, or what is your take?
Well, I do support the Russian influence in the Middle East, especially in Syria. Well, I agree and disagree with some Russian stances. For example, I don't like the radical Islamists, like the radical, of course, excuse me, like in Saudi, Iran, the theocratic monarchy, and Hezbollah. But I do support the Russian influence in Middle East, especially in Syria, because Syria is a real secular system which protects the rights of minorities, the Syrian and other non-Syrians. So I do support the Russian influence in Syria with Bashar al-Assad and his regime.
Yeah. Okay, so and what can you say about Egypt? You know, since the time of the Soviet Union and Egypt used to have like a very good relations, especially during the rule of Gamal Abdel Nasser. So, do you think that Russia has any chance of restoring such a good relations with Egypt?
Well, why not? The president of Egypt, El Sisi, supports right now the Bashar Assad. And Bashar Assad is the ally of Russia. So why not Russia has a better influence in Egypt in the future? I think they have a good chance of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, regarding Saudi Arabia, I also tend to, I also tend to hate their regime, their ruling dynasty, because I remember it very well that Saudi money are involved in funding Chechen terrorists. They are
Yes.
involved in funding terrorist attacks on Moscow and in Beslan, and there is also Saudi trace in the financing radical Islamist opposition in Syria. Well, basically, Saudi Arabia got its fingers in many pies. I mean, it finances and promotes Islamism everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So basically, but the thing is that it is a U.S. ally. So if we're gonna deal with Saudi Arabia, I'm afraid we're gonna have to deal with the whole of US and NATO. I mean, Saudi Arabia and the US, they have very strong ties.
Well, Saudi Arabia is number one terrorist supporter in the world, including Iran. Well, in my point of view, both Saudi Arabia and Iran, especially Saudi Arabia, they support the radical Islamists in Syria. As you said, they supported the bombing in Chechnya and other parts. Also, they support the Islamization in Europe, including with Qatar, the Qatari regime, the
Yeah,
small oil-rich country. So I prefer Russia would use Iran as they both hate each other and to do Russian job, and the America use Saudi Arabia to use the American job, and I suppose I prefer Iran and Saudi Arabia deal with each other and solve all their problems and on behavior on Russia and United States of America.
okay. So, speaking about Iran, while Iranian regime is also like autocratic and unlike Saudi Arabia, which is Sunni, Iran is a Shia regime,
Yeah.
and but they are both like radical. They are both theocratic. They are not secular. However, Iran is Iran, although Iran they used to finance, or not just finance, but support with money and with troops and with vehicles. I believe they used to support the Mujahideen in Afghanistan when the Soviet Union was fighting in
Yes,
Afghanistan. Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And to be honest with you, well, Iran went on friendly with Russia, and well, before that, during the Soviet times, Iran was actually enemy. But when the Union collapsed and Ahmadinejad, declared this his rapprochement with Russia and his and beef, and he had beef with Israel. Well, basically, Iran wants to buy Russian weapons, and Iran wants our specialists to build up their nuclear program. So, if I had to choose between Saudi Arabia and Iran, I would say that Iran is lesser evil than the Saudis and Qataris and the Gulf states, the Gulf Arab monarchies.
They are less evil, but still evil. That's what I mean. It's the Saudi Arabia and the Qatari regime both are more evil than the Iran's regime, but the Iran's regime is not that good much. I know Persian people who fled, who left Iran and escaped Iran only for their freedom. Iran is threatening Israel. I do support Israel for one reason, for or few reasons, because Israel is the most democratic country in the Middle East, which protects all its citizens. All its citizens. And I do support not only the Jewish and other non-Jewish, also the Palestinians and the Arabs. They give them all their rights, and I'm sure about that. So Iran standing against the most democratic and the free country in the Middle East called Israel, and also that I'm not appreciating that too.
Okay. Well, many would disagree with you on Israel, and there are actually many anti Zionist people here on YouTube whom I respect, but I think it's not the point, the subject of it is right now.
Yes,
But, well, we supplied S-300s supplied S-300 system to Iran. Our specialists helped Iran with a nuclear program.
yes,
So I think Russia should continue to build its partner relations with Iran. We should not spoil our relations with Iran just because of some. Well, because we also need a leverage against Turkey, because to be also completely honest with you, I don't trust Turkey either, because they stabbed us in the back when they attacked
yes,
the Russian bomber, and I'm 100% sure that Turkey will never, in a million years, recognize Crimea as a part of Russia.
yes. Of course, Turkey is same as Saudi Arabia, and the history proves that since the existence of Ottomans, Turkey, the military coup that organized against Erdogan 1 year ago or a few months ago was organized by same Erdogan. And I think after a few years we will see Turkey turning like a theocratic country like Iran. Another theocratic country we will see called Turkey. And I don't think they are allied with Russia because Alexander Dugin, the leader of Eurasian movement, called
Yeah.
them as his alias. But I don't think they are allied with Russia. They are only supporting the radical Islam. They are the founders of the ISIS with the Saudi Arabia regime and Obama's regime, the Turks regime.
Yes, and there is actually a lot of evidence to that. Like they bought ISIS oil that ISIS
Yes.
illegally stole from the Syria and Iraq. They just looting Iraq and Syria of their resources.
Do you know that Turkey is the most ISIS buyer of oil? They buy the most country that buys oil from ISIS. Then Jordan. Do you know Jordan? The second country that buys oil from ISIS
No,
because
to be
it's cheap.
no
Because it's cheap.
to be honest, I have never heard that Jordan is actually second buyer of ISIS oil.
Well, I heard from my own resources from the opposition here in Jordan this news.
Okay, okay. Okay, so what can you say about Iraq? What is in your perspective on the Iraqi future?
On the Iraqi future, I see them as allied with the Iranian regime. I see them as a part of the Iranian regime, and I don't see them supporting the Saudi Arabia or the American coalition in Middle East, the Arabic one.
Okay, yeah, but will Iraq preserve its territorial integrity, or will it disintegrate into Shia, Sunni, and Kurdish areas?
Well, I hope and wish that they give the Kurdish their independence. I hope that the Kurdish people will take their independence and become and take their country back from the Iraqi occupation.
Okay, okay, that's your position, okay. But there are different Kurds. Like there are these Iraqi Kurds, Syrian Kurds, Iranian Kurds, and Turkish Kurds, and I don't think they're all like the same, and they also have their like very strong disagreements.
Well, I hope they get united and take their country back with a great one country. As I hope Israel will get more influence on other Arabic countries like Syria, Jordan, Lebanon. Until that time, I do support Russia. Until that time, I do support Russia.
Okay, so so finally, what can you say about Syria? Well, it is just to me, just absolutely no doubt that Bashar regime will stay and Assad will win. But so I think that Russia should help Syria to rebuild the country.
I don't think that Russia should help Syria to rebuild the country. Only those countries who caused the crisis in Syria, only those countries who caused the revolution in Syria, those countries that must support rebuilding the Syria, like Saudi Arabia, like Qatar regime, like Turkey, those countries that must spend their money on Syria, not Russia, because Russia helps Syria defending the Syrian people, not causing the revolution.
Well, do you think there is actually Israeli involvement in Syrian revolution or in supporting like?
Well, lastly, yes, they did some airstrikes against the Assad regime. For I don't know why the reason, but they are have some hands in that revolution. But if we are calling about the Israelis, then we have a left-wing Israelis and right-wing Israelis. The same Israeli government supports Assad. Believe me, the same Israeli government supports Assad because at least Assad give them a secure border, and never a Syrian soldier who try to attack an Israeli soldier in, for example, the so-called the Golan occupied area by the Israeli government. Never a Syrian soldier attacked an Israeli soldier, and if so tried, the Syrian government would punish that Syrian soldiers and Syrian attackers on Israel. So I think that Assad supports secure border with Israel.
Well, actually, yeah. Before the before the revolution started, the Syrian-Israeli border was quite stable and no significant
Yes.
incidents under the Assad government. Well, and basically, basically, I don't see how Bashar Assad had any problems with Israel, except maybe support for Hezbollah. Oh, by the way, what can you say about Hezbollah?
I don't like Hezbollah. I support the same government of Lebanon, the Christian government.
Okay, so regarding the Palestinian question,
The
what did you?
Palestinian, do you know that the Palestinians in Israel live better? We have in Jordan exactly 3 million Palestinians living in Jordan. In Syria, they have a lot of Palestinians. In Lebanon, they have a lot of Palestinians. And Palestinians in Israel live better than any other Arab country. And they have their full rights. Even we see a lot of Palestinian members in the Knesset of Israel. And we can't find that in any other Arab country.
Well, sorry, but some people would start a hot debate with you. Not me, not me. I'm just here to friendly conversate with you.
Yes.
Well, okay, but okay. So, do you think the two-state solution is the answer?
The
Because I
two,
think yes.
well, in past I may said yes, but right now I see in Jordan, well, I'm half native Jordanian, but I will be a honest person that Palestinians in Jordan are the majority and they can take the power and become make Jordan a Palestinian state and solve the whole crisis and the whole problem in the Middle East, and so the peace come to the Middle East, that Jordan is Palestine
Okay,
and Israel is a Jewish state.
okay, okay. Well, well, uh, Judaism is also like is one of the main religions of Russia, along with Orthodox Christianity and Islam and Buddhism. So, so Russia is also a part, technically, partially Jewish state. But do you actually think that the role of the Jews in Russian history was positive?
Well, I don't know much about the Jewish history in Russia, but I think Jewish in Russia suffered a lot in the years before the Soviet Union. They used being forced to convert to Christianity. Even I'm Christian, but I will speak the truth here. They used to force to convert to Christianity and force them. If they refused, their women used to force it into prostitution, and those are the main reasons why the like Vladimir Lenin was a Jewish by himself, but not practicing Jewish, who caused the revolution in Russia. That's why the most Bolsheviks were Jewish against the Tsarism, the Russian Empire, because they are suffered before the Soviet Union.
Well, yeah, and there were pogroms like the Jewish pogroms in the
Yes,
Russian Empire. Yeah, so yeah, that might be reasonable. Yeah, in fact, it is reasonable. Like, yeah, the the Tsarist government wasn't too friendly towards the Jews. Yeah, and in fact, there was discrimination, but before the Soviet times. But I still don't think that causing a revolution in Russia and the fratricidal civil war is a good is a good style to is is a good style to of revenge. But okay,
yes, of course,
okay,
yes,
okay. So okay, I think we have strayed away from the subject of the Middle East. Okay,
yes.
so okay, so what do you think about Libya? So what do you think will happen to Libya?
Well, Libya until now has no president.
Yeah.
Libya until now has no president, and their future is uncertain and unclear. I say they still fighting with each other, and many terrorist radical groups are there. So their future until now is uncertain and unclear. That's what I can say.
Yeah. Okay. And well, another country which have like should I say Islamist regime, it's Pakistan. So what can you say about the Pakistan and
Well, Pakistan is same as Saudi Arabia. Do you know that Saudi Arabia hired a general from Pakistani army to lead the Saudi army if they have a war against Iran? That's what I heard yesterday. Pakistan supported the Mujahideen in Afghanistan and trained them, allied with the United States of America. I see a lot of Pakistanis here in Jordan, and seriously, I don't like them because I know what they do in their home country against other minorities. I don't have respect for such people.
well, I have some Pakistani friends on Facebook, and so far they seem well. I don't know. I've never been to Pakistan, and I don't know those people in real life. But so far, some of my Pakistani friends online, well, they seem pretty nice. But who knows?
Yes, who knows? It's
Well,
only Facebook.
yeah, well, okay. And what about Indo-Pakistani relations? Can there be another war, at your perspective?
Well, if a war happened, I hope it will happen against the Indian people. So Indian people will take them down and kick their asses. And I hope that Russia supports India.
Oh, well, Russia has a long time, like this partnership with India, and
Yes, that's
we supply them tanks and jets, and many of Indians I spoke, including in real life, mm,
they are great people.
well, yeah, but those people with whom I conversated, including in real life, they seem very decent. I never met like really assholeish and Indian people. Well, there is one Indian guy I know online on Facebook. He's a fan of the Russian weaponry and Russian equipment, and he also anti-Islamist just like you.
Yes.
His name is on Facebook is Prem Patnaik or something like that. What? And his views is very similar to yours.
Well, actually, I met a lot of Indians online, and all of them they told me that Russia is a good friend to India, and that's why that Russia must support India if something happens with Pakistan.
Yeah, and well, we're still talking about East, right? So, well, I'm actually like very optimistic about Russia-China relations. I think Russia and China are very, productive allies, productive partners, uh, and I think like China and Russia, it is an alliance. It is a marriage made in heaven.
Well, I must admit that China is a great country, but I'm not fan of them actually. I'm not fan of communist regimes. I'm not fan of communism. Also, I'm not fan of abusing the animal rights that happens in China, like the dog torture festivals that happens in China. I'm
Yeah,
not also
that's pretty fucked up. Yeah, yeah. But well, regarding communism, well, I would say that politically China is still communist, but economically they probably more capitalist than Russia and the US.
well. I appreciate their economics, of course. I appreciate their economics, but I don't appreciate
Yes.
them as politics in their politics behavior.
Yeah. Well, Asian countries have these fucked up relations with the animal rights, and I also don't understand those sports like the Japanese killing dolphins mercilessly, and
Well, in China they are banned the hijabs, veiled Islamic veils. They banned Islamic beards, and that's good. And that's good. But they also banning other religions like the Christians. They are banning their rituals and other things. So I don't appreciate those regimes. That's why many Jewish and many Christians fled from the Soviet Union to the West.
yeah, and the regimes. I mean, what can you say about North Korea?
I don't appreciate also North Korea, and I am not friend of them.
Well, yeah. I know because it's a hardcore communist regime, but I don't think that the military solution is against North Korea is acceptable. No, 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 no. We have to resolve this diplomatically.
Well, I don't think anyone can stop them. The North Koreans, they have two military, also they have two political system, and I hope once day that the North Korean system will collapse. But who knows how? Except
Well,
Donald Trump stop them.
well. Speaking of collapses, now please be brutally honest with me. Do you think it is a good or bad thing that the Soviet Union collapsed?
Well, in past, no, and I don't think it's a good thing, because I still love the Soviet Union, but even I don't love the communist regimes. Not fan of communist regimes at all, but I do support it as a great Russian country. Великая Родина было.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I can show you my birth certificate. I born in Soviet Union, and I proud of that. Well, I can't see it. Maybe later I send you a
Leave it,
picture.
leave it. Okay, so if we are speaking about these, so India. So what can you say about the India itself, like as a geopolitical power?
Well, India is a great geopolitical power, and I hope they will take the influence of China and Pakistan in that area. I do support India more than I support China or Pakistan, and that's great for India.
Mhm. Okay, and
Maybe Russia should get allied more with India rather than China. Maybe I'm just saying.
well, it's not up to me to decide, and neither is up to you.
Yes, yes, of course,
Yeah,
yes, of course.
yeah. So you know, Armenia. Well, let's just go just a couple of thousands of kilometers away to Armenia. So I'm actually very surprised how Armenia preserved its Russian aligned status.
I do like Armenia, and I do support them against the Azerbaijan, and I do support them against the Turks. The Turks genocided them 100 years ago, maybe, and killed them and tortured them. I do support Armenia against Azerbaijan, and I do support them against the Turkey, the Armenians. And I
But
do support a great relations with Russia, Armenia and Russia.
okay, since we were talking about genocide, so what do you think about the Holodomor and the Holocaust?
Well, Galadomor, many Ukrainians suffered with Galadomor. Stalin was a brilliant leader as a leader, but was a very dictator in Russia. A lot of Ukrainians and Russians, even Russians, suffered during that regime and killed by that regime. Another case, what is that? Galadomor and
The
what?
Holocaust.
The Holocaust. The Holocaust was, of course, it's a genocide of the Jewish people, and it's very bad. But I say not all Jewish people suffered, even Russians and other European people suffered. So I'm against the World War II and against the Nazi regimes.
Well, well, what I dislike about the official narrative of the Holocaust is that they focus on the Jews too much, even though total 19 or 20 million Russian civilians were killed by the Hitler invasion.
Well, that's a
Well, it's
point of view.
well
Yes, I do
they
support.
probably think it's they're just Russians. They're just it's never
No,
mind.
no, no, it's not about that. I can see I can see that from my perspective point of view that 20 million Russians killed, but the problem is that Jewish people only in the world not exceeding 15 millions or not exceeding 16 millions. A lot of them killed. So we can say a quarter of them got killed. Not a lot of Jewish remain. That's why they call a Holocaust of the Jews.
Yeah, yeah, I can see where you're coming from. So I think so. Excuse me. What can you say about Europe and the European Union? Let's just move from the from Middle East a little bit to the West. So
Well, Well, I support Russia against NATO.
good.
I do support that Russia take influence into the German elections. I know that the Russian government has a good ties to alternative party of Germany, and they probably will win the next elections. And I hope that Russia will lead the far right wing parties in Europe, like Marine Le Pen, like in Germany. I think Geert Wilders lost in Netherlands, so I think that Russia should support the right wing parties and the populist parties in Europe.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Exactly, exactly. You see, man, and some of the leftists and left-wing people saying that oh, Russia, the Soviet Union used to support left-wing parties, and now Putin is a fascist and
Well,
fascist.
actually, the problem with the left wing, they go to Russia and take pictures with the Lenin grip. They take pictures with the Lenin sculpture, and they take pictures with the communist flags. Those left wings are communists, actually, and Putin is not, and Russia is not communist right now. Russia
Yeah,
supports the right wing parties, but and those accuse Russia of being against Europe, why they are why they go to Russia and support the communist parties in Russia.
yeah. Well, today Russia supports right-wing parties
Yes,
all over Europe, but maybe just 30 years ago, things were exactly the opposite. Like Russia used to support the Soviet Union used to support left-wing parties.
yes, which that's why I like Russia, the modern Russia, more than Soviet Union, only because the political regime.
Yeah, and you see, I think there is nothing wrong if Russia expands its influence in Europe. It's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with it. I am actually,
And and I think that Ukraine will back to Russia. Just wait until Marine Le Pen get elected in France. Just wait until uh, alternative party of Germany get elected in Germany. I will see that uh, France and Germany will secede from the Union. They already Angela Merkel and the same current French president don't support the Ukrainian join of the European Union because Ukraine is already fucked up and poor economy. They can't join. So and in that time they will call Ukraine to go back to their Russian big brother called the Big Bear. The
well, that sounds like that sounds crazy enough to be to be possible, but I still think that you see, Ukrainian population is just over the top brainwashed with anti-Russian propaganda. This propaganda blames Russia for every bad thing, every single bad thing that happens in Ukraine. God damn it! Those Ukrainian anti-Russian nationalists blame Putin for everything, from the war on Donbass to someone shit in their in their podest. You see,
yeah.
what can you say about that?
Well, I'm not familiar with a lot with the Ukrainian problem, but I say that Ukraine in the end will back to Russia, and I'm sure about that. Already, since 2 years ago, the European Union doesn't want Ukraine in the European Union, and after collapsing of the European Union, no one for sure will want Ukraine in the European Union.
Yeah, okay. So I think we have done already, like a good and big interview. So I think right now it's, like time to wrap this up, and maybe you have something you say or to maybe you have something to say before we go.
Well, I wish you all a good day, and I hope this interview was a good one and very good one and very informal one to those who will watch us.
Yeah,
And thank you very much.
yeah. Thank you very much. It's
Большое спасибо. Большое спасибо.
yeah, yeah. It has been a great pleasure to have you on my channel, and I hope to see you again. Yeah. Goodbye.
Yeah, I hope.
Yeah. До свидания. До свидания.
До свидания. Пока.
Пока.